Most medical emergencies don't come out of nowhere. I mean, they have been building inside of your body, brewing undetected, many times with no symptoms.
And I personally have seen it myself. I mean, I have walked into living rooms where people have totally unexpected. One day they're out golfing, the next day they're having a massive heart attack or even having a stroke, very unexpectedly.
Yeah. And, I've met many people who were proactive about their health and it saved their lives. And that's what we're going to be talking about today.
Absolutely. So my name is Lorraine Lindsey. And before I was coaching and writing and speaking, I worked as an EMT in Las Vegas, emergency medicine, answering 911 calls, being the first responder to a lot of emergencies and seeing a lot of tragic situations that simply could have been avoided.
And I'm Gayle Guyardo, longtime journalist, morning news anchor. And for 5.5 years, I built a globally syndicated show, Bloom. And I worked alongside one of the most incredible companies, Lifeguard Imaging, and got to witness firsthand how this company saves lives, up to 3 lives every day. It's not 1 to 3. That's not just some kind of slogan.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And you know what's so cool? When I met you, I know that you coach thousands of people every day, and that's part of what you do. But your history of being an EMS worker, a firefighter, you were on the front lines, and you saw what happens when people are not proactive about their health.
And, preventative care is something that people think is such a big deal, or they don't think about it at all. And the thing about it is that people don't know what's going to happen to them because a lot of times people have no symptoms. They think, well, I've got my blood work done. I've done this. I've done that. I feel fine. But the thing is, when do you really want to know? And a lot of people are even afraid of finding out. But it's like, are you really afraid of finding out something's wrong? Or are you afraid of finding out if you're too late? And if you could have one more day, 1 more hour, 5 more years, would you take the steps you needed to take in order to prevent something catastrophic from happening to your life and to your family?
Yeah, it's interesting. I've met so many people along the way who went to Lifeguard Imaging. They took the scan. In 7 minutes, they found out so much about their health. And at the end of the day, it did save their lives. And for the people that say, I don't know, I don't want to know, what I don't know won't hurt me, that's simply not the case. I've heard it time and time again. And you see the people, like, they wake up the next day and they still can be around their grandchildren, their spouse, the people that they love, their family, their passion, their job. Had they not had that screening, had they not had that scan, they wouldn't be alive today.
Even for me personally, I remember when I talked to the founder of this company and he said, you got to come and do it. I honestly had some reluctance. Like, do I really want to know? But then I thought about my son. I thought about my life. I thought about the things that I haven't done yet. And I said, you know what? Let me go and do this. Let me see, just so I can actually have peace of mind, so I can have some sense of certainty. And then the fact that you could go in year after year and see and kind of gauge where you're at, it made me think of things differently. It made me want to be more proactive with my life, what I'm doing, taking care of my health. I was so excited when I got the green light and I'm like,
Nice.
I'm good. I'm like, well, this is great. And now I'm going to be doing all the healthy stuff and eating better because I want the next score to be just as good as the last time, kind of thing. And it just shifts your perspective on life when you know and you have that peace of mind. There's nothing worse, in my opinion, than lingering with this thought of like, is there something wrong? Especially when we get to certain ages, right? Every little thing, you're like, oh my God, is this the day? Because the reality is you start to see people in your life unexpectedly die for things that you're like, they could have avoided this, or had they known sooner. How many times have you heard that conversation? If I only knew sooner, if my mother knew, my father knew, that what would be different? How much longer could we have had this person in our lives,
Yeah, and for me, my father, who is my everything, died from pancreatic cancer. And it happens like a light switch. Like, this guy could dance. He was the life of the party. He had a charming personality that would knock your socks off. And then all of a sudden, we were sitting at dinner and the color of his skin looked different. It was almost like jaundice looking. And we went to the doctor. They screened him, late stage pancreatic cancer. What I wouldn't have given to have Lifeguard Imaging back then to scan my dad, because, we live in a day and age now where medical intervention is it's unprecedented with AI and everything that's going
Absolutely.
on. Your life can be saved.
Absolutely.
So if you bring information to your doctor early and say, look, this is what I'm dealing with, the likelihood of them saving your lives is very high. And even something, because I know that, lifeguard imaging can scan for hundreds of different cancers, heart disease, stroke, and different conditions. And I had my own personal story because the owner of the company's like, come in, bring your husband, get a scan. So I was so excited. I had no calcium. My score was 0. Everything was looking good. But what I found out that I would not have known until I was 65 is that I had osteopenia. And right away I went to my doctor and I'm like, hey, look at this. And she goes, not a problem. She's like, I'm going to put you on hormone replacement therapy, increase the weightlifting, eat these foods, take these supplements. Do you know 1 year to the date, I actually reversed a lot of the damage, significantly so.
Wow.
Now, and I thought about it, my mom and my grandmother both broke their backs. And that's where it showed on the scan that I had weakening starting to happen. I wouldn't have thought about it because I work out every day, I eat right. And that's the other big thing that I wanted to talk to you about is that you think, oh, you can always tell if someone's got a heart condition or there's some kind of problem. I've met so many people that look like the picture of health that are just weeks away from having a heart attack or stroke.
I mean, we could talk about even the widowmaker. That was something in my medical career that I would see. We're talking high, powerful executives. Sometimes we think if we have a price to our name that we're invincible to health issues, right? Until it actually happens. But you look at someone like Steve Jobs as an example. All the money in the world wasn't going to change his outcome, but could preventative care, could early screening, not to suggest that that didn't happen with him, but could he have had those things happen where he had a little bit more time to be the man that he was? And you see people that have these high stress jobs, firefighters. I've seen firemen that seem optimal in health and they're on their treadmill doing their thing and they're dropping dead because they have what we call the widow's maker. Plaque that's building up in areas that they don't know. Sometimes it's just hereditary. It isn't even, a lifestyle thing. Or sometimes when you're in high stress situations, you're not realizing how poor your health is. You're snacking on this or doing this. And all of these things, if you just had that preventative care, if you knew ahead of time, this is the thing. Just like you said, you were so proactive. You were like, oh my goodness, I found this thing. I'm bringing it to my doctor. And you're actually able to reverse.
Yes. This is like the ultimate taking your health into your own hands. You become the driver of your own health instead of waiting, because a lot of people find out when it's too late. And what I also learned through the years of producing and hosting a nationally syndicated health and wellness show is that yes, these markers, these blood tests, they're very important. Everybody should be going to their annual exam, but that doesn't tell the whole story. Lifeguard imaging gives you the full picture of what's going on inside your body.
Absolutely. And to kind of piggyback to that, how many of us have actually been to the doctors and you're saying, I don't feel well, this is my symptom. And there's all of these steps that you have to take before you're even looked at in a scan.
And does your insurance cover it?
All of these things.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. And you think about it, heart attack and stroke, the leading cause of death. Your insurance doesn't cover when you're out of a job, when you're in rehabilitation, when your spouse might have to give up their job to take care of you. Heart attacks bankrupt people. And so you think about it, this is such a small price to pay to know what's going on with your health.
And not only that, but just think about your own personal life and quality of life. And I think people don't think about that when they're hesitating. They're like, I don't know if I want to do this. You can survive a stroke, absolutely. And if it's in the wrong part of the brain, it can completely debilitate you. Your ability to walk, to take care of yourself, to do the things that you used to do.
Even communicate.
Absolutely. So imagine, and the cost that's associated with what it takes to have caregivers 24 hours around the clock, the stress that it puts on your family members that want to take care of you, the frustration you would feel as an individual. And again, it's like, you're talking 4 minutes, going into a machine, and within a couple of days, a few days, you can look and say, okay, there's something here, and I can be proactive, and I can do something about this. And it's just, and not only that, but I feel like when you know what's going on and you can see what's going on, you can also educate yourself. You can look for signs and symptoms. You can do the things and just and let your family know.
Right.
And this is not just something for people as an individual. For me personally, not only do I want to scan, but I want my mother scanned because
Me
I
too.
want her around as long as possible. I want my family, like everybody I know, like go and get scanned. I was at dinner the other night and there's this gentleman sitting next to me, right? And he's talking and, he's charming and, older gentleman.
I bet
and
he
I'm
was
like-
if he was with you.
I was like, hey. But I told him, I was like, you should go get scanned.
Yeah.
And he's like, what do you mean? I don't need to. I don't want to know. I said, how do you not want to know? You're sharing all of these amazing things about your life. All of these vacations, these travel, these dreams you have. You have vision for things in the future. Why wouldn't you want to know?
I'm so glad that you brought that up because, and I always joke about this. My husband has not seen the inside of a doctor's office in 14 years. I'm not kidding. He has no blood results, nothing. He's scared of needles and won't go to the doctor. But every year, he and I get the Legacy Lifeguard Imaging scan. And we're at that stage. We're almost empty nesters. We want to travel. We've spent our whole life in the grind working, and we're still, of course, going to continue working, but we'll have more freedom. I'm ready to one day meet my grandchildren when that stage of life happens. I eat right. I work out for that reason. I don't want something brewing inside of me that I could so easily get taken care of with the preventative screening. And so to your point, and I'm glad you convinced this man to get the scan.
Yeah, better.
you have to do it. And it's so easy. Like you walk in, there's no wait. You're not lost in some kind of system, and you're with the best technology available is what you have access to.
And you just said something that really stuck out to me. Who wants to go to a doctor when you're sick, when you're possibly dying, and you're getting prodded and probed and in and out and ICU and tubes and blood drawn and how much time does that take? No one wants to experience that. So you could potentially avoid that experience with 4 minutes once a year.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
You know what I mean?
I was at a health fair in the Tampa Bay area. Hundreds and hundreds of people were there. And there was a lady that was kind of standing off from the distance. And I could tell she wanted to come up and say something. So she finally walked up to me and she said, hey, Gayle, I heard you talking about lifeguard imaging. She said, so I went in with my husband. I got the scan. I didn't think anything would be wrong. I felt great. I'm active. She goes, they found pre-stage 1 pancreatic cancer. She said, I took that to my doctor. She said, I'm in treatment now. They're going to be able to take care of me. Had I not gotten the scan, I would have died. Even if you do get your life prolonged with chemotherapy and all of these things, it's not a guarantee that your life is going to be saved. It's bad enough that your quality of life has been completely turned on a dime, but there's no guarantee that these medications are going to work. It might be too far advanced. To your point, why wait until it gets to that level?
And then there's also 2 misconceptions, right? And you said you hit on it a little bit earlier when you talked about perception of health and the poster child of health and what people look like. There was one of the great gals in the office, and she had an experience with a client where it was husband and wife. The wife felt like she had the health issues because, she was maybe overweight and, just felt like I really need to do this. My husband's super healthy. He was reluctant. He didn't want to come into the office, but she dragged him in and they decided to both get their scans. Surprisingly, the husband, who was the picture of health, had a buildup of plaque that it was like, now to the hospital, you need to go immediately. And she, surprisingly, was completely clear. So it's unbelievable how some people will resist this notion because they think or they feel like they're healthy, but you do not know what's happening inside your body. There is an entire universe working inside of there. And there's environmental things that can affect your health. I mean, how many times have we seen people with lung cancer that aren't smokers?
Right. Oh, it's getting worse and worse. I mean,
chemicals we're exposed to.
Yeah, the glyphosate that they're spraying on our fields. So the cards are stacked against us to begin with. And you can live your life as clean as possible, but that's not a guarantee.
Absolutely.
And I think that's, you see these cancer rates, especially over the age of 50. Like it's in the 40% range. That's like flipping a coin. Is that really where you want to be in life? Do you want to play those odds? I wouldn't.
And that's even changing now. Statistically, I remember 50 was the time to go to get a colonoscopy, right? That number has dropped down to 40.
Yeah, I know.
Now you're 40 years old and they're saying you need to come and get this done. Without any pre-existing family history, they're recommending people at younger ages. Why? Because we're getting much more of incidence of cancer at younger ages even. And so again, it's like, imagine 40 years old and you have colon cancer. How much more life do you want to live? If you saw a speck or a tiny, something the size of a ballpoint pen they can detect, and you saw that and said there is something minute that's growing and you could get on top of that, so you're not worried about dying, number one, or colostomy bags, or, completely changing the quality of your life, why wouldn't you do it?
And you made a really good point earlier about getting lost in the healthcare system. And listen, if you're in a car accident or something catastrophic happens, you couldn't live in a better country with the state-of-the-art care that we have. But unfortunately, we have come to a place that a lot of people are falling through the cracks.
Yeah.
And that 10, 15-minute snapshot of a visit that they get when they go to their doctor's appointment, that it doesn't give them the answers that they need. And then also, a lot of times what the equipment at the hospital is not as advanced as what you're getting at Lifeguard.
Right.
The imaging, it's 3D imaging where, licensed radiologists are looking at this. And you would be surprised how many times that I've met people, survivors, people that, went to Lifeguard imaging, got the scan, took the paper to their doctor and said, look at this. And the doctor's like, you're fine. Thank God those people took it to the next doctor and the next doctor until finally somebody listened. And at the end of the day, the scan was right.
Yeah.
The scan was giving them a window into their health that they wouldn't have otherwise had. And it's really a drop in the bucket financially when you think about, it's like an insurance policy of all insurance policy. You had the statistic yourself. We could knock out going through a coffee drive-through, right? Once a day.
Yeah.
And pay for this.
Literally. So that, everything we're talking about makes total sense, right? I think for most people listening out there, it's a no-brainer.
Right.
Of course, if everybody could line up and go get a scan, would they do it? Probably they would. So the biggest objection I think most people have is cost. But I think about this. If I want to go on that Disney cruise with all my family members, what's that going to cost me? And maybe I have to save for a few years to go on that cruise. For less than the cost of that cruise, I could get my life scanned, my body scanned, right? And think about this. Let's say I'm saving for Disney cruise or any type of cruise or some expensive holiday that I'm dreaming of going on. And so now 2 years down the road, that's when we're going to actually take our family vacation. But let's say in that 2-year time frame, there was something growing in my body. It doesn't matter what I spent on that cruise. I'm not going because I'm terminally ill. So when people think about cost, what does it really cost you to know your life and what's happening inside your body? How many of those vacations would we put on layaway and make payments on to go to? Don't we feel like we have that same value for ourselves, for our health, for viable living? And I think sometimes people don't really sit there and think about it like, oh, it's expensive. Why? Because you don't feel well? Because you feel well, you feel fine. It's like, this is important investment in your life. You can buy the house, you can buy the car, none of that you're taking with you. But you can create memories for generations for people by living as long as you possibly can and being preventative in your care. And I think that is something that when I hear people talk about cost, I get it. It's not like I don't look at them and say, oh, whatever. I understand, but this is your life. This is cheaper than your funeral. This is going to be cheaper than your hospital care, your trip to the ER. It may cost you less than what prescription medication will cost you every month. Let's talk about that.
So true.
And so I think for people who have those hesitations, I think when you outweigh the good versus the bad, what it may cost you, literally, I did the numbers. It's like a cup of coffee a day. Is what it will cost you.
Isn't that crazy? So people go spend an exorbitant amount of money for a cup of coffee every day, but they won't set this money aside for the scan. And you talked about the Disney cruise. To your point, you're not going to be on that cruise.
Right.
You're not going to be living your best life. And, you know, every day I wake up, and for people that are listening or watching right now, think about the people that you love so much, the people that depend on you. For me, I think about my 4 daughters, Katie, Lindsey, Allie, Ella, my husband, who's like the greatest guy you would ever meet. I want one more day with them, and the next day, and the next day. So if you're weighing whether or not that you should do this, or do you want to know, or do you not want to know, think about those people in your life. You know, the owner of this company is very generous, and when we were doing all this production stuff, they offered, like, come get a scan.
Right.
Some of the people in my office place did not take that opportunity to get the scan. And do you know, it wasn't long after that my executive producer lost her brother to a heart attack. And then our chief photojournalist lost his life, young guy, early 50s, getting ready to take a walk on a beautiful sunny day in Tampa, Florida. And I know his wife that was left behind, and his daughters, and I see them all the time. And I think about them often. I think, because I see them, they're one's graduating from high school with my daughter and going off to college, and there's all this celebration going on. And my dear friend is not here to witness that. I mean, I hope he's watching from above. But at the end of the day, he's missing out on so much beauty in his life right now. And I'm not blaming him. He didn't know. Like, this guy was doing everything right. He was out on a walk, eating right, doing all the things to stay heart healthy, but it was a heart attack that killed him.
And how many of us have those stories? How many of us know someone where it was too late? And again, you go into the doctor's office, you say to the doctor, I don't feel well. And there's all of these steps before you're even getting your body scanned. And by that time, sometimes it depends on what kind of healthcare system you're in, months to a year can go by before you're approved to even see what's really going on. And by that time, we're having conversations of hospice care.
Correct.
Short, you know, this is your time span, or the exorbitant amount of money that it costs for cancer patients to get treatment, especially if it's a long term and it's multiple cycles of treatment. Another thing that people are concerned with is like, well, what about the radiation? Is there going to be all this and that going on? It's like, well, how much radiation are you going to need with chemo, with cancer?
Right.
So
and what's being injected into your body and the port? I mean, all those toxins being flooded through your body. And you know, what's really interesting is the model of concierge medicine has gone through the roof. People are understanding that if they want to get a handle on their health, they're going to have to pay for it out of pocket.
Correct.
That's what this is. I mean, this is you getting in the driver's seat of your health. And it's low radiation. You're in and out. It's a matter of minutes, and you walk away with all of this valuable information.
The certainty, the peace of mind. It's you know, I think that is the key thing, is understanding you're going to do this for peace of mind, not just for you, but for your family. And again, I can't emphasize enough how important, and when we really look at how we prioritize things in our lives, your life matters. You know, your life matters. And I think that people sometimes don't realize your life matters, your health matters. You can have all the money in the world, you can have it all, but it means nothing if your life is cut short. You cannot take it with you. So why not be proactive in your life? You know, you owe that to yourself, in my opinion, anyway.
I agree. And when people are sitting on their deathbed, it's not like, gee, I wish I had one more day at the office, and boy, I wish I could get back to that grind. No, it's always about more time spent with family, more memories, more moments. And that's what you get when you prioritize your health and you take action, and you don't wait for the diagnosis, because typically when symptoms arrive, you know, things have gotten out of control. Like it's circling the drain at that point. You want to find out when you're asymptomatic. And the crazy thing about this is so many silent killer cancers are asymptomatic. You're not going to know until it's too late.
Well, cholesterol is a big one. I can tell you that when I would run 911 calls, there is no symptom for high cholesterol. You don't have symptoms. You go and get your blood work and it shows up in the blood work, high blood pressure sometimes, unless it gets really, really high where you start to get headaches and things like that. Heart attack. Let's talk about heart attack for a second. For women especially, we don't present the same way that men do. So you hear the traditional thing, a crushing chest pain,
Right.
radiating pain through the jaw, going down the arm. For women sometimes, no symptom. Diabetics, they have their neuropathy. They have issues with their sensory organs. So they don't have the same symptoms. So this is the thing. It's like, if I get chest pain or indigestion, maybe I'm having a heart attack. But you may not always get the symptoms for you to call 911. And even then, if you're calling 911 and you're in an ambulance now, and now you're going to the hospital, and now you've got to go and do this and this and that, and you've got a big heart pillow and a zipper, and God bless the people who have been through that. But again, scanning, seeing where the plaque is, going and taking that information to your doctor and saying, my score is XYZ, and I don't know where all that's showing up at, but it gives you some tangible. It makes you like in charge. How frustrating have you ever, I know for me, going to a doctor, knowing something's wrong and feeling so frustrated because do we have to do the blood work first? Can we just skip to this, And it's like, no, I have it right here in my hand.
Does insurance even cover it?
Right.
I mean, the insurance companies are always looking for a way to not cover what needs to be covered. You're always haggling, and people get very frustrated with that. I kind of want to walk down, memory lane with you of your EMS and firefighting days. I mean, because I feel like you had a vantage point that the rest of us don't get that often. So talk to me a little bit about some of the things that you witnessed. I mean, people that would have been like so grateful to have had a lifeguard imaging scan.
I had one particular call that really stuck with me quite a bit. So I would run 911 calls for like emergencies, and then we would do something called interfacility transport. So it was assigned by the insurance company to take a person from hospital, hospice, or home, or from hospital to home because they're terminally ill. And I remember specifically this one young man. He was 42, I believe. And he had he had several different types of cancer, but notably the cancer had taken over his face and he was unrecognizable as a human being. It was very graphic. And I just remember his mother, who was only in her 60s, and how helpless and distraught she was. Makes me a little emotional to think about it. And we had to take him home. And I remember how nervous the mother was. She was fiddling with the paperwork because she didn't know, like, okay, when he's taking his last breath, he has this do not resuscitate order. What do I do? What do I do? And she was so frantic, and just, it was a lot. And I remember as we were driving the ambulance, she rode in the front with me, and my partner was in the back taking care of him, making sure he was comfortable. And she's sharing this story with me, like, I just wish I would have known. She said he had this, like, what she thought was like a pimple on his face. And they went to a dermatologist, and the dermatologist said, no, you have to go immediately to an oncologist. It's skin cancer. But the thing was, it was the fourth cancer. There was other cancers in his body that was taking over that they didn't realize. So he'd already metastasized. So this was just the last cancer that was showing up externally. And she was beating herself up. Like, how did we not know? He hadn't been feeling well. And this took place in a year. It was that fast.
It happens that fast in
and
life.
It was just devastating because when we got to their home, the mother had laid a mattress, because she was kind of frail, on the floor. So that way she could get to him and roll him and take care of him while he was there, because she didn't want him up high in case he fell and things like that. And I'm thinking, how sad is this? And all she kept saying was, I just wish I would have known sooner. And that always stuck with me, because the young man was my age.
Wow.
And I'm thinking, I can't imagine my mom. I can't imagine my son. happened to see all of this. And it was really sad. And it really stuck. That really, I never forgot that. I can still drive by their home in that area and still remember that family.
Yeah, that's why I was so thankful that we were introduced and that I would have the opportunity to talk to you today, because I know you've seen so much on the front lines. And first and foremost, I so appreciate the work that you've done in the past. And that's a real sacrifice to be out there saving lives. But at the end of the day, you don't want to get to that point. You don't want to be the person in the back of an ambulance or hooked up to all kinds of different medical apparatus. Like, that's not what you want. You want to go in and take care of it. I know mine seems so benign compared to what you're talking about, but I could have been left with a broken back had I not given the lifeguard imaging scan a try. Thank God I found out. Had I waited to 65 when the insurance company would cover a DEXA scan, probably I would have been like my late mom and my late grandmother, petite Italian women that look like the epitome of health. And they were in back braces because one was in a car accident, the other was on a boat, and they hit a wave too hard. And I was on the boat with my mom. Her spine just snapped. So, and you think about the falls that women have. So having that knowledge is so important because, again, I said it earlier and I'll say it again. We live in a world today where medical intervention is at an all-time high. With AI, the technology, the care that doctors can give you. You just have to get in early enough. Through lifeguard imaging, I met a really prominent oncologist at one of the most prestigious hospitals for cancer care in our area. And he said, yes, get the scans. Bring us the information. The faster we can get you into treatment, the faster we can save your life.
Absolutely. 100%.
And, let's go back because there's some great holidays coming up, because even if you might be young, maybe you're in your 30s, you're not quite at the point of being qualified for a scan. You could still buy one for a loved one, your grandparents, your parents.
Yeah.
I mean, this is like the gift of life.
As I say, does your dad need a tie or does he need a heart scan? I mean, let's be honest. So how many times are we looking at our parents? And when we get to certain ages, we can see that they're getting older and, maybe they're retired or maybe they don't have, they're very tight on their budget, but, their kids are thriving. I say, gift your mom for Mother's Day scans. Gift your dad for Father's Day scans. Not only is it, even if they're stubborn about it, like, no, you're doing this because this is my gift to you because I want you to see your grandkids or see your grandkids potentially walk down the aisle. And it just, I think I'm like, Mom, you're doing it.
Yeah.
I don't care what you say.
I lost both my parents, sadly, but my mother-in-law, who I adore, who stepped in, as she calls herself, my earth mom. And she's so sweet. And I keep telling her, I'm like, Kathy, and I'm going to guilt her and buy the scan for her and guilt her into getting it. She's like, oh, what I don't know won't hurt me. She's one of those.
Yeah, that's my mom.
And I think, like, Grandma Kathy, get the scan, because she's like 79. She's spry. She's 79 going on, 59. She looks really young. She acts really young. She's with it. She's agile. She's all the things. And her own mother lived to 104 years old, living independently. And so I think, why not? You can watch your granddaughters get married. You can witness so many beautiful things in your life. So I always say, if you're sitting there and you're kind of like, do I do it? Do I not do it? Think about the people that you love so deeply. What I wouldn't give for another day with my mom and my dad.
And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I do want to say this too, because it's why it's fresh in my head. My mom's big thing, is that, oh, I got my blood work done. I'm fine.
She said the same thing to me.
So I want to emphasize this as well. Blood work is not going to show what these scans could potentially show for you.
It's just a marker.
It's just a marker. And so we're talking about lifeguard imaging has some of the best technology.
Sure.
The best technology.
It's better than you'll find in your local hospital. That's the other thing. If people are like, well, I could get this at the doctor's office. They're not going to call for a scan until there's symptoms and they think something's wrong with you. Like you said, this is state-of-the-art equipment. 3D.
State-of-the-art. It's new equipment. I mean, some diagnostic places that are doing scans and they're 15, 20-year-old machines. And with the advancement, like you talked about, the advancement in technology and the fact that Lifeguard Imaging prides themselves in making sure that they're using the best of the best to really go in layers deeper than what traditional scans would do, you're really picking up a lot of things that you would not necessarily detect in just your blood work.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a misconception with that. I think sometimes people say, I do my annual check every year. I've done my stress test and I've done my blood work. I'm good. Well, why don't you add to your recipe of what your health checks are? If you're doing those things, that's amazing. I think that you're showing that you care, you're on top of your health.
Sure, as
but
you
why
should
not
be.
add the secret sauce?
Yeah. And it's interesting. I'm so glad you brought that up because I've met dozens of people whose lives were saved because of Lifeguard Imaging. And every last one of them told me, my blood results look great.
Yep.
My visit with my doctor was perfect. I was given a clean bill of health. Even for heart screenings, I'm good. And then they go get the scan and they realize they're on the verge of dying.
And here's another thing I want to add this too real quick. You're talking about 5 years of scans.
Right.
So it gives you a scale of where am I every year. So let's say year 1, you're 0, you're good, you're green. But let's say, okay, you got a little careless with that because that happens. Sometimes you feel like, I'm good. I can have that extra drink or eat that extra food because I'm so healthy. But then let's say you're like, I've got this system now. And at the end of by the next year, I'm going to get scanned again. Well, a lot can grow inside your body in 1 year. So next year you might see a little something or maybe you're good. And here's another thing. If you've got calcium and plaque growing inside your body, you can't delete it.
Yeah.
But you can put a lid on it.
Exactly.
And if you don't know what that is and you don't know where you're at with that and you have no way to gauge that, that's the great thing. 5 years of being able to get scanned gives you a great picture of what your life and your health is and how you're taking care of yourself. And so that's another thing. It's not just the first scan, but it's 5 years of really seeing, how am I doing? How am I taking care of myself? Wait a minute, something's going on here. How do we fix that? And it's just, I think once you get past your first one and you realize, then you're like, okay, this is good. I can do this next year.
And then the year after.
Yeah.
I was actually excited for the year-to-year scan. I wanted to see, and I was so pleased with the results. As soon as I realized that something was wrong, I became proactive and I started doing all the things, medical intervention, pharmaceutical through the hormone replacement therapy. Pro tip, if 5 prunes a day is actually good for your bone health. You would think it would make you regular in life, which it does, but it also helps with you because it has so many of the nutrients that your bones need. So I was really like doing cartwheels when I got the next year scan. When you sign up for the legacy program, you get the scans year after year. And I was so excited to see the results of improvement. So the proof is in the pudding that you actually can take control of your health and reverse bad situations. To your point, when it comes to plaque, maybe there's nothing that you can do, but you can stop that buildup and you can get on the proper medication. You'll be monitored by your doctor more regularly. There's so much that you can do once you have the information.
Absolutely. I think at the end of the day, the main thing is like, for those of you that are watching, just come in, get a heart scan, start there, start somewhere. You get your heart scan, you talk to informed people that are there because they care. These people aren't doing this because, this is just a big, this is my thing, I get to brag. No, they're doing it because they care. People in the office, when you go to Lifeguard Imaging, there are people who care. Why? Because they've seen the results over and over again. They've seen people's lives saved every day. Not here and there, but every day someone's life is getting saved because they're choosing to do this. And the people that are working there know this, they love it, and they're there to support you, to answer any questions that you have. But at minimum, show up, get your heart scanned, and know that your life is more valuable than the car you're thinking about buying, the credit cards that you're maxing out, the
dress you don't need, the shoes you don't need.
I mean, this is your life.
It is. And you know what's so cool about it is if you decide to sign up for the legacy program like my husband Mark and I did, you get so much more. You do get the full body scan. But again, the heart scan can and will save your life. It's unbelievable. But you get the full body scan, so you get that big picture. And then they also check your carotid artery, which is, a simple test that gives you a lot of information about your stroke risk. And then they even offer, and this is really good, a colonoscopy.
Yeah.
It's a virtual colonoscopy instead of like the whole Roto-Rooter thing that goes up.
or the days before when you got to drink the stuff and get all cleaned out.
The stuff.
So imagine you can just go for a few minutes.
Yes.
And literally get all these beautiful images of
your colon,
everything happening down there.
Yeah, and it's non-invasive. It's not like, because there can be complications. Before I, met the team at Lifeguard Imaging, and they're incredible, by the way. Before I met those guys, I didn't even know virtual colonoscopies were a thing.
I didn't either.
So I went for my regular screening, I think, at the age of 50. And, but you have to be put under twilight anesthesia. It's a big ordeal. The prep the night before, as you mentioned, and things can go wrong. And what's so cool about the virtual colonoscopy is they get they see what's going on outside of the colon. So you're getting a better scope of what's going on, not just, internally.
Right.
So I haven't had that done yet. I've had the carotid artery check. I've had the full body scan several years in a row. I haven't had the virtual colonoscopy, but from people that have had it, I say it's quick, it's easy. There's nothing to it.
And
You're
you
in
can
and out.
go in yourself,
drive yourself
without a driver.
Yeah,
because I'll tell you this too. Working on the ambulance and having we had a cancer patient had colon cancer, and I've heard stories where I didn't have anyone to take me. I didn't get it checked because it was an inconvenience, or I didn't want to, do the cleaning thing and then have to get a driver. And then, because some of the people that are at an age where they need this type of care, they don't have people in their lives.
No.
And so it's like, if you could get this done where you could drive in, there's little inconvenience to you. It's a very in and out type thing. And you can go, you get that peace of mind without feeling like you've inconvenienced somebody,
Sure.
So,
and the long-term health care, especially as we age, I go back to my late parents. My mom decided to invest in long-term health care. My dad, sadly, he didn't believe in it. I mean, he worked hard his whole life, but man, that Indicare with the pancreatic cancer, it got very expensive. You were mentioning this, earlier on. It gets very, very expensive. He needed a nurse, and I was hands-on, but I also had full-time job, 4 kids, very supportive husband. But I couldn't be by his side every minute of every day, unfortunately. But I was there as much as I could. But you would be shocked at how it drained him financially. He didn't have the care. And most people, some of those really knockout long-term healthcare policies don't even exist anymore.
Right.
So you can't even buy that. So why not buy the peace of mind now?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Listen, if you can't buy it, somebody can buy it for you.
Yes, again, Mother's Day.
Like, what do I want for Christmas? My scans, please.
Yes, that's a great scan. And you were talking earlier about women's healthcare specifically. So often, and I know, as a mom, you can relate to this. I would do for everybody else first, and then for myself.
Absolutely.
In fact, I'm late on my mammogram as we speak. I need to get in and do this, but I'm always taking care of everybody else. Wouldn't it be great if you bought your mom a full body scan?
Absolutely.
Give her that peace of mind. Again, it doesn't take a lot of time. You're in and out. It's a matter of minutes. They see you, and it's the most convenient experience I've ever had in a medical field.
And let's touch on that real quick, because let's say you go to the doctor and doctor says, we've done the blood work, we've done this, something's going on. We need you to go and get an MRI or a scan or what have you. Now you go to that facility with 100 people waiting, and your appointment's at 12 o'clock and you're still there at 3.
Who's taking
You're
care of your
nervous,
kids?
you're anxious, you're like, I don't have time for this in my life. Or you can say, you know what? For 4 minutes, no more than 10 minutes in and out, from start to finish, I can get this done without doctor's orders, without scripts, without me worrying, because I'm being proactive. And I think just for that alone, we pay for convenience all day long in this current society that we're in. We all love our convenience. So for nothing else, for the sake of your health, you can conveniently pay for peace of mind.
You know, I was talking to a top cardiologist, and I didn't know this. You mentioned it earlier. I didn't know, and I think most women don't know that jaw pain is directly linked to heart issues.
Yeah.
You know that. You're EMS, firefighter, now amazing coach. But I didn't know that. But what I did find out from this cardiologist is she said, you know, women go in, they go to the OBGYN. She's like, we're not just reproductive machines. We have a heart. We have other things that need to be checked. But so often, women do not get the screenings and the care that they need because everything's kind of off balance.
Yeah.
The system was set up scanning men, and studies are for men, not for women a lot. So this is something a lot of women, they go to the doctors and they start complaining and they get gaslit.
Yeah.
You know, oh, you don't really have anything, or their concerns are brushed aside.
Absolutely.
You're not going to have your concerns brushed aside with this. You're going to know everything that you need to know as a woman to be an advocate for your own health.
Correct. And to piggyback to that again with what you said, there's only 2 types of preventative care that's currently approved by insurance, and that's getting your colonoscopy and mammograms.
Right.
But that is not where the buck stops when it comes to your body. And I think that this is where we can be more proactive because yes, your insurance will pay for your mammogram. Yes, your insurance will pay for your colonoscopy, but what about everything else?
Yeah, and what about that huge deductible? I mean, for many people, it makes more financial sense to pay out of pocket for like there's a new scan for your bone health, a REM scan. But at the end of the day, why wouldn't you pay out of pocket to find out for 200 different forms of cancer, heart disease, and all of these conditions, up to 500, health issues that can be diagnosed with this scan?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this has been a really great conversation. I could go on and on and on about this. I am such a believer. I mean, like you said, I do coaching, all these things, but when the founder came to me and said, and he came to me just as a friend to say, come and get your scan.
Right.
And I went in and from start to finish the entire experience, I said, how do I get in on this? How do I educate people? How can I talk to people about this is saving lives? Unbelievably. And when I saw the work they were doing and I looked at all of the testimonials, I saw the videos of the testimonials, I was like, I want in.
Me too.
I need to be talking somewhere, speaking somewhere. The more people that know about this, the more people that do it, the more lives will, not might be, but will be saved.
Yeah. And I want to say it's been such an incredible pleasure working with you. When the founder of Lifeguard Imaging told me, he's like, wait till you meet this woman. She's equally as enthusiastic about this as you are, Gayle. And I am. I'm here because it's something I believe in. Before I got here today, I was at lunch with women and I was talking about lifeguard imaging. I think they're going to have to put my husband on the payroll because it's all he ever talks about. But hey, listen, it's a pleasure working with you. I hope we can get together to spread the great word about lifeguard imaging again.
100%. Call and get your scan today.